All right, you guys, thanks to everybody for being here, both in person, live, watching us throughout the world on the internet. This is the Town of Poolesville Commissioners meeting for March 21st, 2022, starting promptly again at 7 p.m. In the House are all the commissioners, plus Town Manager Wade Yost, Town Engineer John Strong, various audience members, some special presenters, and we've got a full agenda tonight, so we'll get right to it. If you don't mind, Jeff, could you lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance? And then after the Pledge of Allegiance, we'll be having a moment of silence for George Hillard, and then Jeff will give us some presentation on George. Thank you. Lead us off on our announcements. I'd appreciate it.
I will. President Brown, thank you. I would like to just commemorate Chief Emeritus George Hillard, the fire chief at Upper Montgomery County Volunteer Fire Department for 39 years and active for more than 60 years. Chief Hillard has many accomplishments to his name. Chief Hillard was Fire Chief of Montgomery County, Station 14, Upper Montgomery County Volunteer Fire Department here in Bellsville. He retired as chief in 1998. Chief Hillard leaves a legacy of excellent emergency services to the greater Poolesville area and Montgomery and across Montgomery County. Thank you, Jim.
Thank you for Jeff. And as per what's due for a person that has served the town of Poolesville for so long and such an amazing time period, I'd like to ask everybody just have a moment of silence for Chief Hillard, and we will, and then we'll go from there. Okay, thank you for that, everybody. And not to mention, too, he was our Grand Marshal in 2014. So a man of honor and a lot of family throughout the area too, and great people. So thank you for that. Any other announcements, Jeff? Do you want to go forward? Are you going to be talking about today's distribution, or?
President Brown, I would like to just mention the the wonderful work by Valerie Dickerson. Valerie Dickerson has been organizing the Poolesville Ukrainian relief effort for several weeks now. And I think it's really nothing short of miraculous as what she put together. We, all in total, we had 11 pallets worth of supplies, many of it first aid supplies, baby supplies, little tiny baby diapers, all sorts of blankets and anything you can think about. Valerie organized a special link on Amazon.com so that the person knew what the items that were most in need were, and they would be shipped directly to Anytime Fitness here in Poolesville. Beyond that, Valerie Dickerson also organized, if you can believe it or not, to get all of these 11 pallets shipped from Poolesville all the way to Poland from donors. And the Chester family, who's a family acquaintance or a friend of Valerie's, owns the Chester Family Foundation. You can look them up on the website. And they organized the shipment and they picked it up today. They picked up the 11 pallets today, and they're shipping that to TRT in New Jersey. Now you might be wondering, well, who's TRT and how is it going to get to Poland? Well, that's another amazing element of this story. And Valerie Dickerson, and I'm not quite sure how, but she knows a pastor of a church in Warsaw, Poland, and that man has a connection with, no, I forgot the man's name, who owns TRT International in New Jersey. TRT International is an international shipping company. So the Chester family is paying for it to go from Poolesville to New Jersey, and the TRT International gentleman is shipping it all the way from New Jersey to Warsaw, Poland, to the church that he he knows the pastor of. So that's quite an amazing connection there. And I can't say enough about Valerie's organization, getting the volunteers together, of course, all the supplies. I mean, you just name it from A to Z. And now it's on the truck from this morning, on the truck, on its way to New Jersey, and then onward to Poland. So we really stand, Valerie wants to make sure that everyone knows that Poolesville stands with Ukraine. One more thing.
I can tell you weren't done.
Yeah, because I look this way?
Yes.
Okay. I do want to mention the new opening of the Heather Suskin photography studio on Fisher Avenue, which is right next to your office. And the Poolesville Area Chamber of Commerce did a grand opening ribbon cutting with them on, I think it was Thursday or Friday this week, of last week rather. And so the studio is really, quite, what's the word? Modern, I guess, yeah. Contemporary, that's the word. And very nice. So, and Heather Suskin is quite a nice woman. So we wish her all the best in her new business venture in her studio. Thank you.
Jeff, thanks a lot. Appreciate that. And that's like you did your chamber update too. So thanks for combining. Martin, what do you got for us, brother?
I'll be more brief. I was also at the Heather Suskin ribbon cutting ceremony, which was good. I'm meeting tomorrow with Marilyn Balcombe. Is that how you say her name? She wanted to meet just to talk about stuff with Poolesville. And that's all I have until it's time for the old PC report.
Got it. Yeah, District 2 candidate, Marilyn Balcombe. So good job, Martin. Thank you. Carrie?
I don't have anything.
Nothing from Carrie. Ed? Okay, great. We'll have stuff under fair access, I know. Okay, you guys, thanks for keeping the announcement as brief as you could. I really appreciate it. Tonight, we're lucky enough to have our Montgomery County Police Department officer, Beardsley, to come up and say hi and introduce himself. And you know, you're carrying some big shoes, wearing some big shoes in front of you here for some of your predecessors. So we're glad to have you on board, and feel free to introduce yourself and let us know what's going on.
Hey, how you doing? Officer Beardsley. I'm from Montgomery County Police. I've served about 28 years at this point. I've served all over the county, mostly down county for the early half. I was a gang detective for a while and did a bunch of other things. And now I'm currently serving as a community service officer out of the 1st District. Probably my last position before I roll out. And basically I'm here to resource if things are needed. We can't always resource every request, but any request we do get, we will attempt to resource it in some form or fashion, either through us or some other agency. So any of the needs are relative to us, obviously. Meetings, HOAs, security surveys, any type of complaints, disputes, stuff like that. I try to mitigate it, drug complaints, stuff like that. I'll look into it and see if we can resource it appropriately.
Great. Questions from the commissioners to Officer Beardsley? Jeff?
Well, it's not so much of a question. I just want to thank you for helping out. Remember when we were doing the COVID test kits and masks distribution? Well, I contacted Officer Beardsley, and he did everything he can to facilitate the traffic control and whatnot. So I appreciate your efforts on that. And I also know that you guys were stretched so really thin during that time. And but then it's very welcoming to have a person that we know, and we know the face, and we can call you when we need something, and then you're there to help us out. So I want to thank you for that help. Thank you.
I was on the district community action team in Rockville previous to that for 6 years until they got disbanded. But we would do our work up in Poolesville on occasion and create some fun. Make I guess it was a Facebook? Poolesville Facebook? Yeah. There was something, usually after about an hour up here, we'd see it blast on Facebook that we're here. So it was always amusing. We always stayed until we got the Facebook posting. So then we'd leave.
Yeah, and Verizon Station, one of your favorite places. That's okay. Good. Any other questions?
For Officer Beardsley.
I just want to say welcome to Poolesville. Welcome back. I know you've been coming back and forth. I've seen you in a couple of different places as well, but welcome to Poolesville, and we're glad to have you.
Appreciate it.
I'll just also say welcome. Thanks so much for being here. Thanks for coming here tonight.
Yes, thanks for your time.
So as you know, we've had some great community officers that have been a part of the Poolesville community, and we know you're going to fill those shoes very well. excited about it. In fact, we're going to talk about it a little bit later on here, but Link and I were on a fair access communication with the council president today, and he had some good things to say about our local officers as well as some of the packages they're working on, so we'll let them tell you about that. But we know there's difficult times for police officers at times, and you know that you have a friend in Poolesville, and we appreciate you being here. And we're gonna erase your ticket writing history, and we're gonna just move forward with community policing and building community around you. So thank you. I know you play by the books either way, so we appreciate that. But I do drive a black Audi, and I don't go that fast. Motorcycles too. So
COVID pretty much wiped that out.
yeah. Okay. Right. Yeah. It's all over. Right. Got it. Okay. Well, one good offshoot of COVID. All right, Officer Beasley, you're welcome to stay if you want. We know you're busy. Thank you for being up here. All of the commissioners know that we can reach out and have communications with you.
My card, email's the best way.
Great.
Shoot me an email. I usually get back to you in 1 or 2 days, depending on when an email comes in. And we'll try to move forward with whatever resourcing we can as your needs arise.
Yeah, there was a day when we met back in the day. Our staff, Wade and I, met with usually our community officers once a week, and that was just too much. So we're definitely much more calmer than that now, and then things appear to be in pretty good hands. So we'll just be in touch when we need you.
Yeah, if you need presentations or any research and stuff like that, let me know and I can prep something.
Very good. Well, hopefully we don't have anything where we have mobs here. But if we do, you're going to be the first one we call. Trust me. And you can bring your guys with you too, or your people. So
Usually it's over parking, but yeah.
that's right. Yeah. Usually the action's not on the inside. I get it. All right. Very good, sir. Yeah. No. No way. Easy. It's a lease. Officer, thanks again for coming tonight. We appreciate it, and we'll keep the ball moving here. All right, commissioners, committee reports. Carrie.
So I'll just give the upcoming dates for events. So May 13th is that Up County Prevention Network event. They're doing a movie and they're going to have a local band playing on the Commons. May 7th is the annual fishing tournament at Stevens Park Pond. That's noon to 2. And then also in May is Spring Fest, May 21st, with lots of different brewers, and it looks like we have 20 confirmed at this point, so that's great. And in terms of Fridays on the Commons, I won't give all the dates, but it looks like pretty much the usual Friday on the Commons events: Red, White, and Brews, Bark in the Park, Wet, Wacky, and Wild, Wine Down in the Park, Game Night on the Commons, and Fiesta in the Park. That's in August. So
Great.
I think that's all the events.
All right. Any questions for Carrie on the events that are coming up? Thanks for bringing those up, Carrie. We appreciate it. Martin, Planning Commission.
So we had a planning commission meeting last Wednesday. There wasn't tons on the agenda. The Jamesons came in. One of the Jamesons came in and talked about solar arrays on town properties. It's sort of an initial presentation. There's not really much more to discuss on that. I can give you a copy of this document that he put forward. We discussed the comprehensive plan, specifically the survey, and there was 580, give or take, 589 responses, which I thought was pretty darn good. And I don't know if Wade sent them to you yet. He had to clean them up, but he was going to send the survey responses to all you guys once it's done. And there's more information on there than a lot of information on there. Let's just say a lot to work with. And then we had Wallace Montgomery was here to talk about visioning workshops, which is something also you've heard them called charrettes or listening sessions. And so the first one of those is going to happen. It's looking like the 14th of May. Is that right? Which is a Saturday. And I don't know if we finalize the the forum, I think it's going to be outside with a rain date contingency or rain contingency. And I know we were going to try to do some kind of a hybrid so that people could call in if they weren't comfortable. But that's still being ironed out, so stay tuned for that.
You have a tentative time, or you still working this out?
We're still working that out.
But it looks like May 14th.
Yeah, May
It'd
14th.
probably be a Saturday event, so we're looking,
Yeah.
Saturday morning event.
And May 14th is not certain at this point, like, we're still tossing it around, but it seems like it's going to be that date.
Okay. Very good, Martin. Anything else?
Nope.
Thank you for that update. Ed, what do you got for us?
Sure. Jim, I'll let you talk about fair access. I will say that we had a good meeting earlier today with County Council President Gabe Albanese, and so, Jim, I'll let you share those things. In terms of the sustainable Poolesville, want to thank Joyce for just presenting at our last meeting. A lot of items were covered there. And then we have our next meeting coming up in here Wednesday at 7 p.m. So it's open. We'll be right here in Town Hall. That's it.
Great. Okay, thanks. So for my fair access presentation, as Ed alluded to, Ed, Link, and I were all on a phone call today with County Council President Gabe Albanese, and it's interesting to me. I mean, and Ed, feel free to speak up, and even Link if you want to as well. He had. It's always interesting to hear the county council members speak in terms of how the county council views things versus how we view things, and a lot of times they align, but a lot of times they don't align. And I know Gabe is very, in my mind, he's very well versed on the Up County. He's been a friend to Poolesville for a long time. Again, he helped us get the whole pool rebuilt. We didn't pound him too hard on putting a bubble on the pool today, but those days will come. As he knows, that's one of our goals. He also talked about what he's working on from a county council and a county president council viewpoint. One of the biggest is that they know there's going to be big turnover on the county council in this next election that's coming up in November. So they're really trying to work hard on the Thrive 2050 initiative, and it's really going to be interesting because, and I give credit to the people that represent the Up County farming community, mostly Jeremy Chris, but I know Bob Sissel plays a role, others do, that are Poolesville farmers and Poolesville residents. Their contribution to Thrive 2050 was not enough representation from our area, and I've heard that in the past. He reiterated today they want to get it right. It's such a huge initiative. It's basically setting the template for the county for the next God knows how many years, 2050 plus. So it is going to be an interesting process with Gabe providing the leadership behind it and knowing full well that he's going to have what likely will be a very inexperienced council dealing with big issues. So he's got a lot on his plate. He's very cognizant of everything that we have going on. It's kind of funny. He talked about it like us having the candidates come up and be here and do things. So we reminded him, yes, we're going to be having a forum here for all the District 2 council candidates. We are going to be having a forum here for the county executive candidates. Those dates are locked in. He's right. We need to have some meet and greets for some of the people that are running and some of the people that, there's a lot of at-large candidates, right? And at-large candidates can be our friends and should be our friends too. So we'll be putting the word out. Fair access will be about when those events are going to be happening. Likely they'll be at locals or at the K2. And when we do that, we want as big a turnout from town residents as we can to let them know the flavor of Poolesville and what the things that we're working on. So that's about it. And there's a lot more we could talk about for fair access, but those are all the high points. Jeff?
Thanks, President Brown. So I do have a couple of things. As a result of our recent budget meeting, the Parks Board will be submitting a budget, and we're going to go over that. It's on the agenda for our next meeting. And then there's a topic that I guess we've been talking about for a while, and I don't want to beat the thing up too much, but the list of the crosswalks. So Wade has reminded me that some of these are not on the town that we own. The town doesn't own the road, especially White's Ferry by Spates Hill. And I was a little bit surprised to learn that the town only owns the Fisher Avenue between Wooten and Elgin. I was hoping it was longer. Anyway, it is what it is. So anyway, Wade is going to help with that. I understand that so it's not in our purview to put a crosswalk across the state road, but that doesn't mean it's impossible, right? We can work with them to see if that can happen. And, and also, a resident came up to me today and wanted to remind me about the crosswalk over by Westerly Grove that will facilitate the students coming from Westerly Grove over towards Poolesville High School. I know we chatted about that a couple times. And the other ones on here, Wade, you gave me an answer to it, and it looks like the answer to many of them are John, Mr. Strong, and yourself will review it, and then I guess you'll get back to the Parks Board. Okay, thank you. That's all for me.
Good deal. Way to go, Jeff. Okay, you guys, approval of the minutes. So we have the minutes from our last meeting, March 7th, 2022. I believe everybody was here, right, and either virtually or in person. So would someone care to make a motion for the minutes from March 7th, 2022?
So, I noticed the minutes there's something weird going on. I think it's mainly at the very end, the town manager report. There's categories of your report, but like the very first one, there's just the category, but not the actual presentation of the category. The second one is fine, although it's written in the first person, which is different than the rest of the minutes. And the same thing with your second, or the third category. And then the last sentence is just water rates also. And then there's no punctuation. So something, I don't know if it got truncated or what, something happened.
Water rates
It's
also.
just, yeah, it's just,
Yeah, the last-
water rates also.
Also,
The last line just before adjournment.
Yeah, I think it was just copied and pasted into the document.
Yeah.
So it could have been lost in that.
Yeah,
I'll
just
check
something
that and see.
happened weird with the whole report there.
do you propose an amendment to the
Yeah, I'll
minutes
propose
as
an
proposed?
amendment, although I don't know how to amend
Right.
it.
Yeah. We can hold off on approving till we get a corrected version and
You just
have
say
it be
amendment
public.
also.
Nice.
Good one. Okay, what's the opinion of the body, you guys? What do we do here with these minutes? 'Cause
Why doesn't
if
we-
they're not complete.
Why don't you copy the, whatever you intended to in there, and then we just approve them next time, is what I would say.
I agree. Let's go ahead and just get it
Okay.
right. That way we have a nice clean.
Yeah.
Okay, you guys, so there's no vote on the minutes for March 7th. We'll be getting another group of minutes, untruncated version of the minutes for review by email, and then we can approve it in the next meeting. So thank you for that. Thanks for the action on that, Carrie. Appreciate it. Public comment time. Do we have, Bailiff John, do we have anybody out there that's going to be presenting today? Anybody signed up? Appreciate it. Thank you, sir. Appreciate that. Got it. Very good. So, former Commissioner, Mr. Klobakowski, hang on for just a second. Do you have something you want to talk about in terms of any of the subjects, or you just want to come up and some other things too? Okay, this is it then. Okay, good. Well, then this is your time. Come on up and introduce yourself. Thank you.
Jerry Klobakowski, 17300 Fletchall Road, Poolesville, Maryland. For the record, as the past president of Montgomery County Maryland Municipal League Chapter, I would like to say congratulations to the Montgomery County Chapter and the County Executive Elrich for putting an end to the tax duplication issue, which has lasted over I think 4 decades now, since the 90s or 80s or 90s, and will resolve it over a 3-year period, which will result in approximately doubling the amount of money, that tax duplication money that the town will receive from the county. And a lot of credit goes to Montgomery County Chapter members, both past and present, like Sanford Daly, who used to be the manager of Gaithersburg and Kensington at one time, Bruce Williams, former mayor of Tacoma Park, Bridget Donald Newton, former mayor of Rockville, Ryan Spiegel, who's a commissioner or a council member in the town, city of Gaithersburg, Jared Smith, who's a council member in Tacoma Park, Shayna Davis Cook, who's the manager of town of Chevy Chase, I believe, and Monique Ashton, who's the current president of the Montgomery County Municipal League, Maryland Municipal League chapter, Julian Mansfield, who's the manager of the town of Village of Friendship Heights, Tom Tomasello, I believe you were involved in it, and I know Wade spent some countless hours, very frustrating hours, as I recall, dealing with a certain person in the county executive's office at that time, back in the early 2000s. So I'd like to congratulate them for pursuing this issue, doggedly pursuing this issue for over 40 years and bringing it to a successful conclusion. The other two things I'd like to bring up is this Hughes Road entrance to the Tractor Supply Shopping Center, which has been a problem since the center's opening, that it is dangerous. There were grates that were out and with no cones. Then there were grates with cones, and then there were two metal sheets of thick metal put over steel put over those areas, and then they were removed, and now they have some cones in certain areas, and then the grates are falling in. This thing has to be resolved. It's dangerous because people coming in and exiting via that entrance. So, and people are zigzagging around and cars coming the other way, et cetera. The shopping center owner needs to be brought up and said, look, you're going to fix this permanently, or some sort of fine should be levied, because no one, and it reflects bad on the town also that someone can't keep their property up. And the second issue is the Dollar General property. There is a globe light, is that the proper globe light, on the side of Dollar General, on the Poolesville Beer and Wine side of Dollar General, and it's hanging over. And then there's another one in the right rear parking lot, which has no head on it whatsoever. And again, and then there's some pipes, there's some other little minor things on the building that need to be corrected. Again, it sort of reflects on the town. And also, I can't believe that people who own these things wouldn't want to keep them in the best shape, especially the Tractor Supply, which has a vacancy, which you'd think you'd want to present a pristine facade and grounds to potential renters who, so anyways, that's my spiel. Thank you very much. And one last note is, when you get this money over the next 3 years from the increase in tax duplication money, please spend it wisely. Thank you.
Yeah, so the polls of it, that's not, this isn't the first time.
No, this has been for 2 years or more.
You just look into it, and they actually, Dollar General bought the polls at Dollar General, and so they just followed them.
Who did? Dollar General bought the poles at Dollar General. Okay, yeah, okay, all right. So get a tube of super glue and fix them.
Yeah, this is not the first time that's happened, so.
Jerry, thank you for bringing all that up. I'm
thanks,
sure
Jerry.
that I'll make sure that we look into both the Tractor Supply Shopping
And
Center.
if I may raise one
Sure.
issue.
Yeah.
I was going to say a long time ago, and I forgot. This issue about the ponds, stormwater management ponds that we have, Seneca Chase in particular, the one at Seneca Chase, the one next to the middle school, Collier Circle, and the one next to Stevens. I know they're stormwater management ponds, and that's under the control of the county. However, those ponds serve a great recreational purpose, and the county should be made to understand that. Kids go fishing there all the time. Men are fishing there all the time. And it's a source of enjoyment for many people in Poolesville. And to say that we don't really care, it's out of our thing, I don't know. I believe that we can do better than that, and we can convince the county to at least let us keep those ponds as a recreation spots for the rest of the Poolesville community. And thank you.
Thanks, Jerry, good to see you.
Good to see you.
Jerry,
If
thank
I-
you.
if I'm-
Yeah, go ahead.
No, if I may, I want to thank you, Jerry, also, because when you were giving the thanks for the tax duplication, you should have included your name at the top. You- No, I'm serious, Jerry. You deserve,
Yeah, well, don't mention me to too many of those people down there, because, they might want to kick you into your...
well,
Jerry,
thank you.
I echo Jeff's comments. Jerry, thank you again for all your contribution. You were part of the fighters for a long time, and I know it was a group effort, and you played a key role, so I appreciate it. And I also appreciate you bringing to our attention I was under the impression that they had something actually happening in front of Tractor Supply, that there was something ongoing, but we'll double check it and get back with you on that and Dollar General. So, thank you for bringing it to our attention. I appreciate it. And I'm gonna, since you're a former commissioner, you got 2 3-minute sections just then. So I'm not gonna call it 1 6-minute session. You got 2 3-minute sections. So, because you called a timeout in the middle, you said you were done and then you weren't. So, that's good. Thank you for that, Jerry. Appreciate it. Okay, very good. Nothing else from, no other public commentary. There's nothing under old business. We've got a lot that is here under new business. So, unless somebody's ready to have something else jump up out of old business, I don't see it here.
Let's roll.
Okay, financial assessment time. So, Wade, I'll just defer to you for the background on this. Go ahead.
Sure, this is something that actually began when Tony was still here, and he contacted Stephanie Walker. I think he was previously worked with her in Gaithersburg, and she's coming in and doing a financial assessment of kind of our books and ways to create efficiencies and stuff. And from that, we just turn it over to you, Stephanie.
Wade, are we supposed to be on YouTube? Because the TV screens are blank.
We're using the camera in the back of the room.
Oh, okay, swell, thank you.
Oh, thank you, thank you. So good evening, I'm Sherry Amos. I am a principal with CLA, Clifton Larson Allen. For those of you who don't know CLA, we're the 8th largest accounting firm in the nation with a local office out of Timonium, Maryland. So I'm out of that office, and then, what's Stephanie introduce you?
I'm out of the Raleigh office, so although I'm based here in Frederick, so also a local presence.
So we kind of gave you guys a handout here, a presentation, and we can walk through. We'll try to make this maybe not so, this isn't a very stimulating topic to a lot of people, I understand that. So we'll start on page 2.
I really like the color coding.
Thank you.
There was a lot of red.
So. It depends on how you look at things, I guess. So we were engaged to perform an assessment of the financial operations of the town. So kind of why would this be necessary? Why would you be interested in having that done? I think Poolesville is in a really unique situation where you've experienced some growth over the years, but you also had some turnover at a key position, which is your town manager. So individually, each one of those instances would probably, be ideal for an assessment of your financial operations, but when you put the two together, it really becomes a good time to really take a step back, look at the roles and responsibilities of the employees throughout the town. A lot of times when you have vacant positions, those employees take on different roles and responsibilities, and therefore you could potentially have a lapse of internal controls happen, segregation of duties, and things of that nature. And even when you do have people come back into those previously vacant positions, you have to wonder if the roles and responsibilities go back to the way it was before, or certain individuals kind of continue doing maybe jobs or tasks that weren't really originally in their job description, but they just never kind of reverted back to the old job description. So this was a really good opportunity, and I thank Wade and Tony for bringing us on board to kind of walk through that with you all. So just to kind of give you an idea of kind of why we're kind of doing what we're doing. So page 3. Kind of quickly just kind of go through our methodology. I will say this was a pretty high level assessment. We didn't spend days and weeks here going through your records and all that. We're trying to make this as efficient for you guys as possible, but also provide some valuable recommendations for moving forward. We did obtain some documents such as your budgets for the past couple years, your audited financial statements, org charts, town charters, things of that nature that we reviewed. And then Stephanie also came out and met with, and actually list everybody that she met with and talked to throughout the town, some of you guys as well, to try to get your thoughts and feelings on how things are processed, how transactions are being recorded, if you guys are aware of any internal control deficiencies and things like that to help kind of put this assessment together. And then we have, of course, this presentation to kind of go over our observations that we noted. Page 4, and we kind of break down our kind of 3 key themes throughout. You'll see processes where we looked at certain financial processes such as your payroll, your budgeting, your billing for water, wastewater, things of that nature. And then also the process all the way up through governance and kind of what is your role and how are you doing your role in regards to the financial information. So processes is probably the first key theme you'll see. Systems is second. Whenever you have financial operations, you usually have some kind of computer system, which is you guys have as QuickBooks. So we obviously took a look at that and see how that's doing for you all. And then segregation of duties, especially for a town of your size. I think it was like 18 employees. Very small in nature, and so it is really hard to ideally segregate duties with a town of this size. So there's always inherent risk associated that you all should be aware of as you're performing your fiduciary oversight of those inherent risks in segregation of duties. There's a lot of different ways that you can go about trying to segregate duties and bringing different people on board to try to handle certain processes and procedures to help mitigate that. But there is only 18 employees at the end of the day, so just something to keep in mind. And then as we go through the observations, we do have it color-coded.
I just want to ask one quick question.
Sure.
So on page 4, at the bottom where it's the segregation of duties, what you were just speaking about, that's color-coded red?
Correct.
So does that mean there's a recommendation that we should have more people, or I don't know exactly how to put it, so that there isn't just one person or the same two people every single time?
So we try to be very pragmatic when it comes to segregation of duties in small entities like this. So you always have a cost benefit to any recommendation that we have. A lot of times the cost is tangible dollars. Actually bringing on more people might not be cost effective for you all, and that is completely understandable. So we'll go through the observations or recommendations might be ways of bringing in different people, whether it maybe be a town manager doing a little bit more oversight or things of that nature to help mitigate those segregation of duties versus you hiring 5 more people, which probably is not the most feasible way to go about it, so to speak.
What about for a town this size, having, hiring, I'm not suggesting that we do this by any means for all the people in the room, but just asking a question about hiring outside. I don't see us hiring more people just to handle this.
Right.
But what about hiring outside service to provide either more independent review or regular review beyond what we're doing right now?
And
Is that normal?
That is normal. That does happen, especially depending on the expertise of the people that you have on staff. I think one of our recommendations is actually, possibly looking at maybe an outside bookkeeper or something like that that would help with the record keeping for your financial audit, and then also be another source of segregating some of those duties. So maybe somebody that you have part-time or a contractual basis that might not be as costly as hiring somebody, full-time and benefits and all that, so to speak. So that is definitely an option, is to bring on somebody contractually.
Okay, thank you.
So, okay. And as I said, we did color code this, the red being what we consider to be a little bit more high priority. I know whenever we give you on how many pages of recommendations, you kind of always going to go, what's the most important, or what's the things that maybe we should focus on first, second, and third. And that is with the color coding. We'll try to help you guys with that. So the red being things that we think should be done sooner versus later, and then yellow and then green being probably the low priority items. Okay. I'll let Stephanie get us started on page 6. And as you guys have been doing, if you have any questions as you go along, please feel free to speak up.
And Wade, if there's something in here that not in contrast, but if you have something if you have commentary, I don't want you to be afraid to speak up comparatively to what the recommendations are, like what we actually are doing, or how you see us fitting into something like this. We're not, by the way, team, this isn't getting put to bed tonight by any means. This is just something that, more of informational to start.
No, and to the point, some of the things we're going to go through are things that we used to do as a practice, and kind of like the financial reports quarterly and things like that ceased, once I left. But they need to be in a report, and you guys need to know that these should be done in the event that I leave again. Right, exactly. So a lot of things that we used to do, and everything just kind of stopped, so.
Absolutely. First, I just want to take some time to thank all of you for your time tonight, as well as thanking the staff. They gave up, a couple hours at least of their day in meeting with me and talking me through, understanding what you are currently doing, as well as, in some cases, things that you had been doing in the past. And so they really helped inform, this report. I'm going to walk through, each one of these. I will try not to be too incredibly dry for all of you, but I do understand it's super exciting for most of us. But please don't hesitate to stop me if you have a question on exactly what something means, or if it's not, if you just need a clarification or, that sort of thing. The first category really was the banking relationships. We understand that the town's local banking relationship is moving out of the town, and staff are already working on making a transition to implement a check scanning process so that they're not, driving to, outside the jurisdiction on a regular basis. And so we just recommend you continue with that. It's also a time where you may consider evaluating whether that's the right banking relationship to continue with or not. Obviously, that's a time-consuming process to switch over, any kind of banking services, but it may make sense to take a look at that right now. The town also uses the Montgomery County Local Investment Pool for its investments, and the county does a very nice job of helping out local municipalities with that. They don't, however, provide a monthly investment statement. So when you're trying to make sure that you're reconciling your books on a monthly basis, checking, make sure the activity was properly recorded, you can't do that if you don't receive a monthly statement. And so one of our recommendations is that you consider other options. The state of Maryland does a similar pool to the county pool. It's only allowed investments under the what is allowable for towns and municipalities within the state. It is open to all municipalities in the state, and a lot of people use it. They do a monthly statement. There's also online access, so that's something you may want to consider.
Online access, basically everything we're not seeing from the county.
Necessarily. Okay, got it. Thank you.
Another service that many banks started offering in the recent past is something called positive pay, and that basically means that they are not going to pay anything that you haven't told them that you've issued a check for. So, in the past, the town goes ahead, they issue checks. As soon as that check is presented to the bank would pay the check out. Under a positive pay system, you would also provide a list to the bank, and when someone goes in to present a check to have it cashed, if it's not on that list, the bank will either check with you first or outright reject it, depending on how you have it set up. And because your banking information is on any particular check that you write, that's fairly easy to access the account numbers and that sort of thing. So, we recommend that the town look into implementing that. The next one is banking segregation of duties. In the past, bank statements came in paper format, and I understand from talking with the town manager that at that time he would receive the bank statements, in paper, be able to open it, take a look at it before he passed it on to the town clerk for reconciliation. With a movement to electronic banking, they're no longer sending paper bank statements, and so the only access to the banking information has really been through the town clerk in the recent past. And so we recommend that we get at least the town manager, potentially the deputy clerk as well, if that role makes sense, access to viewing statements online, as well as then reviewing the bank reconciliation, just so that there's someone seeing, that's occurring on a timely basis, and that reconciling items seem appropriate. The town uses QuickBooks for most of its accounting transactions, and that's an easy to learn system that staff are familiar with. It does have, I don't want to call it a fatal flaw, but it does have a flaw. I would consider it a flaw in the system, in that it does allow transactions to be deleted. We didn't notice any instances where staff are deleting it. We don't think that has been occurring, but it's just something that the software allows, and so it's something we wanted to call your attention to.
How do you prevent that? Is there a policy?
Within QuickBooks, you can't prevent it. I don't think it's something you can turn off. And so, potential data loss could occur, right? I don't know that it's super easy. I don't think it's one of those where it just, it accidentally got deleted, right? But, it could happen. And,
If you're backing things up every night, like you don't know it's gone, you don't know to go to the backup.
Exactly. Certainly. Under segregation of duties, currently QuickBooks is only on one standalone computer. That is, when backup functions are performed by other staff, they're accessing the same computer using the same username and password. That's typically not a recommended, IT security process. And we would also recommend that the QuickBooks either be put on a server where multiple computers can access it, or you can sign up for a cloud service where QuickBooks will do the backing up for you. Then it's accessible really from any computer, because you could log on through the cloud. That would also allow for additional user IDs for people to access with their own user ID and password. It does have security protocols, so you can identify what roles or positions and access different people should have within that system, or different positions. All right. Moving to page 8. Currently in your QuickBooks and in your financial statements, you are only reporting a general fund and a utility fund. Within your budget, however, you have a lot of space dedicated to your capital projects funding, some of your long-term savings for capital projects. But that's not reported within your financial statements. I take that back. The activity is reported, but it's reported within the general fund. So it's just not segregated out as part of the capital projects fund. And then when you look at some budget to actual comparisons within your general fund, things can just look a little bit convoluted. It's not as clear what is being set aside for capital projects fund for future years versus what was supposed to be spent that year, if you're just looking at the budget side. And so we would recommend that your financial systems, the QuickBooks, as well as your financial statements, mirror the way that you're budgeting for it. Because you are budgeting, you have really good practices around that, as far as setting funds aside for future use, and then showing the spending on the current year within those capital sides. Additionally, QuickBooks currently is set up as sort of two standalone companies. So the general fund is set up as one company, the utility funds are set up as a separate company. They're not really connected at all. And that means that when you write a check for an invoice, if the invoice needs to be charged to some general fund accounts and some utility accounts, right now it's being copied, and one check is being paid out of the general fund and a second check is being paid out of the utility fund. And just from an efficiency standpoint, if you can set that up so that they're both within the same company, you could cut one check for both of those and charge it to the appropriate accounts, that way. It's my understanding that QuickBooks offers some of that functionality, and so we would just recommend that be looked into and then implemented if possible.
Do this for a reason, though, right? The way that they're.
It was just simple to do it that way. I think that maybe some training with QuickBooks to expand the capabilities of it may be something we look at in the future.
Right. Okay. Thank you.
Yeah, and I'm not sure that it always had that functionality. I think that you've been using QuickBooks for a number of years. I think it was something that was added. I'm not sure that exactly when it was added, but. All right, moving to page 9, under payroll. Currently, with the overtime pay for the town is all charged to the main salary account within the general fund, and then it does get allocated to the utility funds. Department directors who authorize the overtime, aren't necessarily held to managing that overtime budget. And if you were to look at the salary lines, you couldn't necessarily see just from looking at the regular budget to actuals, how much was being charged for overtime, in a certain period. And so we just recommend that in order to help make sure that overtime costs can be easily tracked and managed, that those be segregated out. Also with payroll segregation of duties, right now, town supervisors will sign off on individual employee timesheets, but then they don't necessarily see, after the timesheets leave and are processed through the main office, they don't see the other side to make sure that what was reported on the timesheets is how things got processed. On the other side, the town manager reviews the payroll on a monthly basis to see those costs, but doesn't necessarily look at the timesheets. And so there's really only one employee that's sort of seeing the full picture. And we didn't notice any errors or any issues at all with that, so I don't want to say that has caused problems. However, we always like, when it comes to segregation of duties, just to make sure that there's someone else that has full access to all of the information and is reviewing key processes like payroll. Accounts payable, when we reviewed that, purchase orders are currently used for purchases over $500. We understand that there are certain times where you have an emergency and you can't necessarily get a purchase order approved by the town manager ahead of time. But we do believe that those are typically infrequent in occurrence, and authorization could be provided in an email form if it was, in an emergency basis or a time sensitive. But we did find that probably more frequently than we would like, the purchase order wasn't being approved prior to the purchase occurring. And so it was occurring when the invoice was being paid and sort of, on the back end. Any questions so far? Are we? All right. Moving then to our utility billing on page 10. The town currently accepts checks, e-checks, credit cards, as well as cash payments for utility bills. And the e-checks and credit cards have a different timeline for when they hit the town's bank account. So one of them may take, a day, some of them may take 5 days. And so in order for staff to understand and reconcile the bank statement, they need to know, all right, this transaction hit the bank, on this day, to know that it didn't cross months. And in order to get the information on each transaction by transaction basis, the deputy clerk has to manually look up each one of those payments, identify what type it was, and then provide a report to the town clerk. The town clerk then has to spend additional time reconciling that. And so we have a number of recommendations for this process. The utility billing system allows for ACH payments. I believe staff are aware of this, and they had started in that implementation of that process. We would just recommend that we continue that implementation. That's really going to be the most efficient way for payments to come in. Then the utility software billing provider, if we can work with them to identify a report so that, if we do continue to see these payments come through, rather than having to look up each receipt, manually identify what it was, they can get a report that would provide the information. It would save a little bit of time that way. And then also the utility billing software website indicates that they provide some e-check and check elimination services that may make the time lag a little bit easier to understand as far as when those deposits are coming in. And so we just recommend that you work with that provider to see if there's a way to make that a little bit more efficient. The Continental Utility Solutions, Inc., CUSI, I'm not sure if that's exactly the way we would pronounce the acronym there, but right now it's not integrated with QuickBooks. So we've got our utility system over here, we've got our QuickBooks over here, and they're not talking to each other, which means any transaction that happens on the utility side needs to be manually entered into the QuickBooks. So, and then at the end of the month has to be reconciled, on a totals basis, which can be a time-intensive effort. And so we recommend that we take a look, work with those software providers and just work on an integration so that we can save the staff, the time, as well as, the risk of manual error, which when you do your reconciliations, you would catch. But having done numerous reconciliations over and over, if you're looking for, a $9 somewhere, it can be hard to find in a month and take a fair amount of time. The town is currently cross-training the event specialist to provide support and backup to the deputy clerk for all of the utility billing, and we think that's a great process. We wanted to acknowledge it and just encourage that process continue so that she become fully cross-trained there. The utility billing system does have some receivables that are over 120 days old. Many of these accounts have been shut off, but collection processes are not progressing necessarily with those, and so we just recommend that the town continue to do some collection efforts on that. And then the procedures manual. The deputy clerk has a lot of notes on how to back up processes for the town clerk and do a lot of different things. And we would just recommend that those be formalized into more of a procedures manual so that other staff could then, check them, make sure that it really is, exactly how they would reperform something. And then also so that's available and legible and understandable for another employee if they did need to step in and kind of help provide backup services. So. I believe they're kind of within her desk or computer. I'm not sure if they were handwritten or if they were, computerized, but. So, and that's not unusual. I mean, when somebody, I can't tell you the number of organizations that I worked for where an accounting procedures manual was something that we were striving to do for many years, because it's hard. It's not, quite honestly, it's not a fun process to document, right? But it can be important. If you have staff turnover, if someone leaves, if multiple people leave, having that trail of here's how you get from A to B, here's how you do a check run, here's how you do a payroll run, can be really, really valuable. So, and then I'll turn it over to Sherry, just so that you don't have to listen to my voice the entire night.
So I'll dive into the audit process. So as I said, one of the things we did look at was your audited financial statements, as well as the process around getting your annual external audit. So one of the things that the external auditors did note in 2021 was that there was an incorrect rate used for a developer billing. So we would just recommend that the town kind of determine a threshold of what they consider to be a large billing or large transaction, just have somebody else involved in the process to have another set of eyes on those. I mean, obviously, if you're billing somebody, that's revenue coming in, so you want to make sure that you have it accurate, so you're collecting the amounts that are due to the town and not collecting less than that. So just have another set of eyes, whoever that might be, would probably be very beneficial in those larger transactions.
You know, if we overbuilt them or underbuilt them,
I'm sorry?
on this discrepancy in the 2021 audit, the incorrect rate, did we bill them more than we should or less than we should?
I believe it was less.
Wow.
And it may have been collected at this point, so I don't know that it's still, outstanding, but.
Okay. So when your external auditors do come in to review the financial records, they are making sure that the financial records are in accordance with generally accepted accounting procedures or policies. And at times, if they see errors or they're not in accordance with those policies and procedures, they'll recommend audit adjustments to make corrections to the financial records. So it looked like there was roughly 33 adjusting entries in 2021 that the auditors recommended that the town record for financial statement purposes. From our perspective, we do think that is quite a few for a town of your size to have 33. Ideally, you'd like to have none or just a few. So we just recommend that, if these are recurring entries every year that are the same ones being adjusted by the external auditors, it may be a little bit more enhanced training on kind of what that needs to be done ahead of time for audit preparation, or having maybe like a part-time bookkeeper or somebody come in and help look over those transactions and help record those, whether it be monthly, quarterly, or annually for a financial statement prep. And then the other thing related to those audit adjustments, it looked like there were roughly $254,000 of adjustments in 2021. It does not appear that those adjustments ended up being recorded in QuickBooks. So they were adjusted for your financial statements to make sure your financial statements were accurate. But we do recommend that after the audit is done and those auditors provide you with those adjustments, that you're going back and recording them in QuickBooks. So that way your accounting record, which is your QuickBooks, does match your audited financial statements. And then that way you guys have the accurate set of financial information. So when you going forward to do your budgets and things like that, you have the accurate historical information that occurred to help build future out years when you're budgeting. The next one is actually related to your commissioners as governance. So as governance, you guys have a fiduciary obligation to review the financial information and make sure the audit's is happening and is occurring as it's supposed to under Maryland law. We do recommend, as part of your fiduciary oversight, that you meet with the external auditors at least annually. Maybe 2 or 3 times a year wouldn't be a bad idea, in order to, at least at the end of the audit, to get an understanding of how the audit went. Did they have any difficulties? What were some of the audit adjustments that were proposed? Did they have any findings, recommendations, things of that nature that you guys should be aware of, so that way, as part of your oversight responsibility, you could be making sure that those are being implemented timely, and et cetera, et cetera. So we just recommend that. I think you guys were doing that at one point. Maybe not quite as frequent lately, but you do at least annually meet with the external auditors. And technically, according to standards, the external auditor should be reporting directly to you as governance and not directly to management. So that would be keeping in accordance with kind of auditing standards as well, so. From financial oversight perspective, it's our understanding that you guys receive financial information at the end of the year as part of the closeout process. And really would like to see you guys get more frequent financial information. Again, as part of your fiduciary oversight, I would say at least quarterly, if not monthly, actual expenditure revenue information compared to the budget, so you can see how the town's progressing throughout the year. Obviously, at the end of the year, it's kind of done and put to bed at that point. But so that way you guys can help in your decision-making process, having those real-time financial information throughout the year.
Does that exist, Wade? The budget and actual on a quarterly basis?
Yes, yes.
Oh, okay. Well, maybe we should look at that.
You used to.
Oh, okay.
And along those same lines, it's our understanding the town manager always received a monthly financial report on how the town is doing on that particular month. We recommend that in addition to that, that they also receive a year-to-date report as well. So, if we're into, March at this point, how has the town been doing since July 1st through March, year-to-date compared to budget and all of that. Again, the more information, the better armed you all and the town manager are to making good financial decisions for the town. We have a couple of recommendations or observations for the budget. The budget's an Excel document, which is not abnormal for a town of your size. We don't recommend that you have any robust budgeting software or anything like that. But one thing that was noted was at one point it was housed on an individual computer and was subsequently lost. So I think this has been corrected at this point, but making sure that, it's backed up daily, that more than one person has access to that document. So that way, if, it is inadvertently misplaced, that is not the only copy out there, obviously. That's a very important document from your standpoint. So just to kind of more of an FYI, so going forward, to, be on the lookout for that.
Thank you for making that one green.
I say, my understanding is that's already been taken care of, but just want to make you aware so you can ensure that stays green.
Our plan too.
And in terms of the budget, one thing that we always recommend when you're looking at a budget, you always have historical actual information alongside those budgets, especially as you're building out years, and making sure that the historical information is updated to the actual results at the end of the year, just like you would want your financial system to be updated with all the numbers that agree with the audited financial statements. You want your budget to be updated with that as well. And then
Question. I guess it's more to Wade. We would have this already, right? Because we have the budget column and we have the actual column. So if we budgeted a certain number for revenue, that would be the budget column, then we have a separate column for the actual revenue.
Of the previous year. Yes, what they're really speaking to, they looked at FY '21, and in that year, there was very conservative budgeting that occurred for the revenue streams due to COVID. And so I think that was, and there was really a reduction in the revenue itself, so that's what they're speaking to really at that particular one.
But I don't think that was my point. My point was we have two columns, right?
We
I don't
have
want to
four columns,
oversimplify
yes.
it, but I remember reading the budget. And there's a budget column for many different categories, and then there's an actual column for those same categories. So if we budgeted a certain number for expenditures, 10, and then over here it was really, in the actual column it was 8, that's what we have, correct?
Correct.
Okay, thank you. Thank you.
and lastly, the last thing we had was really more of just a general observation related to your capital assets. We noticed they're about approximately 50% depreciated at this point. So obviously, they're getting halfway through their useful life, and just making sure you're cognizant of, having a long-range capital project plan, making sure that you're weighing those decisions as to replacement versus maintenance, so that way you won't get into an unfortunate situation where one year you're having to spend a lot of money on replacement of capital assets when maybe you could have been, thinking through that and kind of incrementally replacing or enhancing maintenance on some of those throughout, so you're not stuck one year with a high high bill, so to speak, on replacements. Loan. Either way, so just something to kind of keep in mind as you're going through the budgeting process. So that's basically what we had for tonight, as far as what we kind of noted during our assessment. If there's anything we can do going forward for the town, I mean, our information, both mine and Stephanie's, is on the presentation. Please feel free to reach out to us. We really appreciate the time to come in and learn more about your town. I'll be honest with you, I had not been down here before. It's a very, very nice town, so we appreciate expanding our horizons as well.
I know you guys have questions, and I have a few too, but I open the floor to the commissioners, whoever wants to jump in.
Well, I was just gonna say, that, yeah, I probably said this at the beginning, but there's a lot of red. And is there really like a prioritized list of the red? That I know there's a lot of red items, right? But I don't know which one to put at the top, well, like 1, 2, 3, down to whatever. But it seems to me that we need to tackle whatever is the most important thing, then the second most important thing, and that kind of thing. And I don't know how to I don't know how to prioritize this.
Well, I think, without interrupting, Jeff, I think the town, and we'll get together as a commission group, along with Wade and Bobby, and I think we'll look at all the recommendations, especially the reds, but all the report in general. And I'd likely see us coming back and having further discussions once we kind of summarize it in the context of the town. And the recommendations, and I don't want to take your microphone away from you, but it's refreshing to have an outside look, Martin. I appreciate you pushing us in this direction, Tony, too. It's been refreshing having your review of our processes. And we've had great relationships with our auditors in the past, but you really put it into plain language for us, and we really appreciate it. And the format and the in-depth that you went to bring it to us was great. So it'll give us plenty of food for thought, and obviously we've got several parts of this in progress, and we've got several directions that we need to go in as well. So, and I know our staff is up for it, so I really appreciate it. And as I said, it's a great alternative viewpoint for us. Thank you. Anybody else?
Well, I just had one more thing, and it was maybe a very tactical item, because you were talking in here several times about QuickBooks. And I know there's a QuickBooks that you have on your laptop, like QuickBooks, I think it's called QuickBooks Desktop. But there's also a cloud version, which is called QuickBooks Online. And you didn't explicitly mention in here, but is that something, and then I could log into it, right? If I had certain permissions, I could see something or change something. If I was town clerk, I would have more permissions, that kind of stuff. So is that something you didn't explicitly mention in here, but is that something you were recommending?
Yeah, that is, especially when it comes to backups and things of that nature. Right now, you have it on one computer, I believe,
Yep.
with one login information. So if multiple people are using that login information, it is very hard to distinguish who's performing what in QuickBooks as far as a good audit trail. So we do recommend that you have more than one login. Everybody that has access to QuickBooks has their own individual login, and then making sure that we do have either it on a server or the cloud would be a great alternative for a town your size, to make sure that it's not just one copy on one computer that could be corrupt at some point, and all information lost. So that would be a very feasible, I think, suggestion would be to go to the cloud.
Yeah, and I think something on that, a system like that on the cloud would make it easier for the folks to work from home, and we, of course,
Absolutely.
all know about that in the last 2 years, so.
Absolutely.
Okay, thanks.
Just one quick question. So the common reoccurring theme in here seemed to be like QuickBooks has a few vulnerabilities. Is there a system that we'd be better using than QuickBooks? I mean, the whole thing where you can just delete a line and it's just gone, it freaks me out. That's problematic, it seems like. So is there another system we should be using, in your opinion?
We decided not to go the full route of recommending a whole new computer system, because that is a major undertaking for any organization. And your employees, really know QuickBooks and are used to QuickBooks, and that's half the battle too, is the training aspect of any system. So we do think QuickBooks, I think, is suitable for you all. But again, just like segregation of duties, just know that there's an inherent risk out there that you should be aware of. So whether or not you want to, migrate to a whole new computer system would be something for you all to consider. But we've kind of decided not to go that route because it is costly. Anytime you switch to information systems, there is a cost to it, both in training and the actual purchase of additional software. So
What would be the next software you'd recommend if we were to make a transition at some point?
There's a number of them that work for towns your size. What I would probably say is that if that you would start by looking at some of the ones that would integrate with the utility system. And they list a number of them on their website. I don't remember the names of them
That's fine.
off the top of my head.
That's fine.
But just, because it would integrate, you could look at replacing both software with one single software provider so that it does both utility billing as well as your general accounting. I think if the recommendations that we have in here related to QuickBooks are implementable and, that it
Would it reduce the vulnerabilities?
that it would, and I think that system can work for you, as long as those are implementable. And I say as long as they're implementable because, QuickBooks says that it can do multiple funds. That's not something that I have experience with, establishing and setting up. And so, as long as it works as the software company states it, I think that can work just fine. If you were to find, you reach out to QuickBooks, you talk to them, you say, yeah, well, here, we want to have a general fund and a capital projects fund and a utility fund, and it can't do that, that would be the time where I would say, all right, I really think it makes sense to consider, looking at some other software programs. But if you can get that functionality from your existing software, I wouldn't discontinue using it for that one flaw.
And it sounds to me like another common reoccurring theme is that lack of redundancy leaves us vulnerable to mistakes, or fortunately we have a very honest staff, but if somebody wanted to do something nefarious, it leaves us very vulnerable to that. Is that correct?
Yeah, that is correct. It's and it's not uncommon for a town your size. I mean, you see this at organizations, all over the place, and so it is really important to have, regularly having someone else back up the process and actually, do the town clerk job, as well as if you can have a review process for your key processes, in place, and having someone else look at the financial numbers and look at the detailed transactions, on a regular basis. They don't have to do it, every week, but having those reviews can substitute for having a second staff, do. And review typically is less time consuming than really splitting up the process.
No, this is great information. Thank you.
So then, just going back, I shared the same concern Martin had, just in terms of if something was deleted, if there's an item deleted. But I'm also just thinking, I'm not an expert in it, but I'm just wondering, if you have that backup system in place, you can go to an earlier version and then recoup you could see what was deleted if there was an accident? Okay.
I would think so. I think you'd want to talk to QuickBooks about that. I'm not
Right.
a QuickBooks expert either, to be honest with you. I would definitely look into that with QuickBooks and work with them to see, what the functionality is and how you can recover, I think is what you're looking for.
Right, just
if
to
there
recover,
were
so in case there
instances.
is a mistake that's made, so you're doing the checks and balances periodically. But you know that, wait, something doesn't look right, what is that? And instead of kind of looking for a needle in a haystack,
Right.
theoretically, it sounds like one should be able to go back and look at an earlier version to find out what's missing.
Right.
All right, well, thank you.
Wade, do we back up our network or whatever daily, or?
I'm not certain what Bobby's practice is right now.
It was my understanding from talking with her that it was typically a weekly process.
Should probably be daily, is that?
Ideally,
so.
you'd want
Yeah.
a major financial system.
I mean, can't that be automated, just back up automatically?
If it was on a server or in the cloud, you could. If it's on, someone's standalone computer.
So we should be on the server or in the
was
cloud?
using a thumb drive
Yeah.
to back it up.
So we've had those conversations. That's going to happen this week.
Great,
So we've been
Great.
looking
Thanks,
at
Mike.
this report, and we want to implement everything that's on here. So.
very good.
Well, just one quick thing to Martin's point, because we use QuickBooks at the fire station, and we have it on automatic backup. So it sends it back up to the cloud every single day. And you don't have to touch it, right? In fact, it's better if you don't touch it, because then it goes automatically.
Anybody else? Questions, anybody? Commentary?
What's our next step?
I think the plan is, and you guys feel free to chime in, but I think the plan would be to have staff take all of this under consideration, then come back to us with their own review and report of their direction, and then we'll kind of have further discussions on it and make sure that what we can implement, we're going to, and what we can't, here's why, and if there's some in between where we're going to be. I think bigger picture, I mean, the time will come maybe for, again, a review of QuickBooks in general. But again, I'm no expert, but I share the assessment with the providers that for our size and QuickBook, it has some holes, but if we're going to recognize those holes, then we're going to be, that it's, the right system for us, and I don't think we have to jump into that right away.
Yeah, I'd love to like circle back like in 6 months or something like that and, follow up and see where we are with all this and, what we still need to do and what's been done and how it's working.
Well, we'll let, said staff still getting their feet wet, so when this is coming at a great time as we implement and review. We're going to review and implement, then we can move forward with it, and of course, we'll call you guys back in when and if we need you. And now that you're fully attuned to what we do, you're going to be able to jump right in with both feet, I would imagine, so fantastic. Thank you. Anybody else? Questions? None?
Well, it says
Yeah.
confidential, but we can, if we needed to share this, we could.
It's been shared,
It's on the
so
website.
yeah, it's on the
okay.
packet, and it's
Okay.
out there. That's good, that's fine, I don't think there's anything what's gonna alarm the public, so it's good to be shared. I don't have an issue with that. Great, all right, thank you so much, ladies.
Thank you,
Fantastic,
appreciate
great
it.
interviewing with you, great discussing with you. Appreciate all the information. Yeah, the organization was key. Yeah, it was great.
So we're glad that you're, happy with the product that we, provided. If there's anything we can do, like I said, please feel free to give us a call. So
We
wish
will.
you the best. with
Thank you.
this.
Thank you so much. We appreciate it. All right, guys, that was great. Appreciate that. Employee handbook time. So Wade, you want to do an intro on that one? I know Tony's going to be chiming in as well. Tony, step up to the plate, brother.
Before you start, Tony, I'd just like to say I spent a lot of time today reading all 35 pages, and this is great. I mean, this is, in some ways I wish we had it sooner, but it's a really great product, and I think it probably keeps us our legal vulnerabilities less. It's a roadmap. If somebody has a problem with the previous town manager, there's a direction of how to go. Now we have an HR department where if someone comes to me and says I have a problem with the town manager, I can say, okay, well, I'm going to hand that off to the HR department. So it's nice to have kind of a roadmap and this document that we can refer to and quote, and everyone has to read it before they start and sign it. And I understand it's not an agreement, but just acknowledging that it exists and that So nice work. And I know Wade did a little bit on it too. So thank you, Wade.
Oh, can I just jump in here after Martin? So I remember in the employee survey, there were a number of comments about the absence of a employee handbook, and of course that survey took place before the employee handbook was finished. But did you already review this with the employees, and are they happy with it? Do you know?
I've reviewed this last draft with the employees, and there was more just questions and clarification on certain items. But yes.
Okay, so you incorporated that. I guess if something was ambiguous, then you should maybe clarify it in the paper.
It's not very ambiguous.
No, not at all. It was,
Oh.
yeah, they had comments, but sometimes the comments just don't need to be changed.
Okay, fair enough.
Yes, well put, well put. And there was a small focus group, I think I mentioned once before, kind of midway through this with the supervisors and the clerk and the deputy clerk and.
Thanks, Tony.
And some of those comments made their way into this document and some of them did not.
Yeah.
And as the cover, I don't know if you got the cover memo in advance or you got it today, but, there are no material financial things in this, that would have to go through your normal budget process. There are a lot of changes, mostly to the boilerplate, legal things and, as Martin said, things to, kind of keep things going and processes that didn't exist before.
Yep.
But really, it's an expansion and kind of modernization of the existing handbook
Yep.
based on what many towns have, but also some Poolesville-specific changes.
Tony, I enjoyed reading through it as well, gives me some time going through it. I like this brings clarity, structure, right, and processes, so there's no misinterpretation of, well, I think it's this, I think it's that. So I think the way it's laid out cuts through any type of misunderstanding.
Yep, I agree,
And as
kudos.
Commission President Brown mentioned to me months ago, that, this is a living document. If there's something
Yep.
that's not working out, then you just
Yep.
bring it back to commission and change it.
Other commentary from the commissioners?
So, one of the things in reading it was, it seems to me that this is a document for our employees, but it seems to me that it's probably a good guideline for the commissioners as well. I mean, like the stuff in there applies to us too, with blogs and Facebook posts and it seems
Yeah,
like it's
I
just
mean-
good practice.
Yeah.
It is,
Comments.
it's impossible to define you all as employees.
Right. No, I
I think Jay would probably chime in on that one, but yeah, I mean, you could adopt your own, or just decide that those are aspects that you wish to follow as policy.
It seems like I don't recall reading any of the bullet points or the paragraphs that didn't apply to us. I mean, it just seems like they're all
Common sense.
yeah, common sense and things that we should try to practice.
Anybody else? Wade, do we have a little more work that's being done on this?
It's a good draft that could be adopted, but there's some changes we talked about last Tuesday as far as health benefits and the assistant manager position that it's gonna be changing, within the next couple of weeks again, so. However you guys wanna handle it this evening.
We have any hirings coming up besides the assistant town manager? I know we still have one opening,
There's one opening right now,
right? And this has been reviewed with the department heads,
yes.
but not the staff yet?
No, everybody's had a chance to look at it.
Okay, got it. And we're not at the signing stage yet because we're not done.
And there'll be
Okay.
a briefing with all of them at one time to
Right.
make sure everybody understands.
Yeah,
it
face to
and on the
face.
Same page with them, yes.
Right, got it. Okay, so the commissioners, go ahead.
It seems like we could just adopt it and then as changes are needed, the changes don't seem hugely significant. They're just like semantics, like the benefits or whatever. But it seems to me that the sooner we adopt it, the less vulnerabilities we have for a lawsuit or whatever. And I don't think that's realistically like a high likelihood, but why not? Why not get it in place and cover our whats.
Unless anybody has an objection, I'm fine with that. The only thing I would say is that it would be made pending, the more immediate changes that will be implemented into it. But again, as Tony said and I said, that it's a living document. We're probably always going to be changing it, and probably the town manager's job will be to advise us of the updates that will take place.
Yeah,
If
I'd like
there's-
to know if the changes get made.
Right, and you're gonna initiate many of those changes, like when you adopt the budget, we're doing, yeah, so.
Right.
I have my red light on. Yeah, so, I didn't read this. And normally I read everything cover to cover. I didn't read it, so if we're gonna vote, I have to abstain. The only thing I can say is all the page numbers are the same. So anyway, I'd like to, if you're gonna vote, that's fine, I just have to, I haven't read it, so I can't make a,
I'm fine for holding
Choice.
off for the next meeting to vote. We've gone so long without something formal that I don't think 2 weeks, we have
Yeah.
microphones on.
I don't think 2 weeks is going to kill anybody, but I do urge all the commissioners to dive into it. And if there's comments to be made, they need to be forwarded to, they can be forwarded to Wade and Tony, or just Wade, and then they can be worked into the next group.
Yeah, mine was just minor, just on the copy that I have, just everything's page 2 of 3, but something that either quick fix.
First of all, yay, it's really nice to have an HR manual. Thank you so much for working on this. We did receive your cover page today, so I would love if you could go over the points that you go over on that memo. if you weren't prepared to go over there in detail, that's fine, but, I mean,
I mean, it's fine. I mean, it would take 5 minutes, but it's up to you guys.
I mean, in particular, I really like how you're, taking a look at other towns and cities. You specifically say policies in line with basic common provisions of other local governments. I mean, I think that's really important because we have this, dichotomy here in Poolesville where we're a small town, but we're also part of MoCo. And, I think you're addressing a lot of that. One thing that did jump out at me like right away was, even with like a 35-page HR manual, it's still, about half the size of most HR manuals that I see. And I'm not saying let's put more pieces of paper in it just, to do so. But that did just jump out at me. I mean, I don't know what to do with that. But, when I was reading through your list of things that you did highlight, you talked about, let's see, you have a smoking policy, including tobacco products, vaping, and smokeless tobacco, prohibits their use in town buildings or vehicles or while performing work, which all makes sense. But then you very specifically say that it does not prohibit outdoors on town property. So I'm kind of curious about that recommendation. I guess I prefer to see it more in line with what I see in other municipalities, which is all town property, facilities, and parks.
I felt like, and again, that I mean, I wrote that section from scratch, and I thought that was pretty much as far as I could push it. You have a number of smokers and vapors on the staff, maybe half the staff, which, compared to the 90+% of Poolesville residents who don't smoke.
Right.
And you also don't prohibit smoking in your parks and things to residents. So I felt like not indoors, not in the vehicles, and not while you're working covered most everything. But if somebody wanted to theoretically punch out and go across the street and smoke, that would be okay, or on the side, which commonly happened. And that's one of those things that you guys can decide whether that's working for you or not. But it did. I think the thing that that caught my attention the most was that, unlike some of the other towns in Montgomery County who ban smoking in parks for residents or visitors or anybody else, that is not the law here. So it seemed tough to take it any further.
I see.
I hear where you're coming from, Carrie. I'm personally, I'm okay with it. Like, I think you get some blowback if you crack down on it too much, and I don't know. I think this is a good compromise. I mean, it seems like it discourages a little bit, but it doesn't take it too far.
Also, I mean, Tony's right, and it does jump out. It's Montgomery County law. Do we take our employees further than we take the law? That's kind of the problem here, in my mind.
Adding that you can't smoke while you're performing any work. And, I mean, you do have vapors, you do have smokeless, walking around with that jar of spit, which is, you're technically not going to be able to do that inside the buildings at this point, which right now you can't. So, yeah, it does move the ball forward.
I guess in general, I just like to see us moving more towards, more away from, protecting, smokers and moving more towards encouraging, smoking cessation, Yeah,
we talked about that in the salary part, that, the residents are paying for the healthcare costs, and, they're without a doubt incurring higher costs because so many employees smoke.
Did we talk about incentivizing employees to quit?
Not that I recall. I don't think so.
It's something that some HR companies do, like, and sometimes it sticks and sometimes it doesn't. But $1,000 if you quit or whatever, and with the understanding that you could potentially lower your health insurance. If half your staff smokes, if you can get a quarter of them to stop and to not start again, you could.
$1,000, some of them might start.
What's that?
For $1,000, some of them might start.
No, that's true too. That's true too. But I mean, you know, I'd love to see a cost study on that. It might even be worth it. So.
Yeah, there's a lot of ways to attack this, and some towns, I can tell you, it's a cost containment strategy. It's not, you know, a workplace strategy, and it's really not clear what it is here. But
Tony, I appreciate your perspective. Carrie, I got yours too. I think we're taking some pretty big steps already, and I'd like to see it stay as it is in terms of those specific items. They can always be addressed in the future. As of now, these are some pretty big changes even to put this in place, as well as we're talking about revised salary structure, benefits, et cetera. I mean, I get the overall push, but
yeah, and I think
this is a lot for these guys.
The
to
wording that I
absorb.
put, you know, bringing your policies in line with basic common provisions, you know, kind of sounds like a criticism, but a
No.
lot of these things didn't even exist.
No,
You know,
you're right.
5-10 years ago.
Yeah.
These
No,
are
this
just
is
things
good.
that we're getting caught up.
We appreciate the up to dateness of it, and we're going to hopefully use the document to stay up to date as time goes on.
Sure.
Yeah, and as far as I'm concerned, I think this is really good timing too, because, you know, this, if I was an employee of Poolesville, I'd say, like, you know, these changes seem, you know, kind of dramatic. But at the same time, on the other hand, you got like, we're going to take care of your benefits like they should have been. We're going to take care of your salary, like we're going to treat you like better. So, you know, it's sort of like a, yeah.
It's not a carrot and stick. It's we're updating
Right.
across the board.
Right.
Growth. Thank you.
Yeah.
And as I mentioned before, I think this plugs, kind of plugs the gap on the comments that were made in the employee survey and the lack of a handbook, because like I say, I haven't read this, but I can see that it's quite substantial, so, yeah, I think it's very good, thank you.
Thank you.
For the commissioners, and Carrie, your suggestions too included, if this is your chance to read it, this is your chance to make comments. I need all the comments to come in via email, and so that if we need to categorize them and discuss them, and we will categorize and discuss them at the next meeting, we can do that, but we can also use that meeting to push this to old business and adopt.
Yep.
So if everybody's ready for that, then that's the direction that I want to go. And it said, no comments are off the table.
Yeah, I think we adopt it as soon as possible, and if Jeff needs the 2 weeks to read it, that's fine.
He'll take it.
Take you 2 weeks.
He'll take it. He'll take it. Tony, any other commentary from you, buddy?
No,
Are
just
how many more duties do you have left?
This-
What's on the list?
The finance consultant was number 5 of 6. This is number 6 of 6. With that, I think the list
Your-
is pretty much complete.
tour
and
of
I just
duty
appreciate
has,
the opportunity
yeah.
to ride it out, and it's been fun.
These are your legacy pieces, and we do appreciate the time you spent on them, as well as the substance of the work provided. So,
Thank you.
Personally, I thank you for that, and I'm sure the commissioners can say whatever they want to say on that, but I do appreciate it.
Yeah, I appreciate your short time here, Tony. Like we as a result with Wade's help, we've made a lot of changes. Like some substantial changes and some really positive changes. And I think that a lot of those are at your recommendation and counsel and this handbook and having consultants come in here and tell us where our weaknesses and vulnerabilities are. I mean, these are really important things for Poolesville, and I really appreciate your time here. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Yeah, you've been an excellent consultant as a town manager.
We'll follow your future progress with considerable interest.
Yeah, and thank you for that. It's noted. Anybody else for Tony?
Sure, yeah, Tony, I'm just gonna echo that. I really appreciate your time and laser-like focus on these tasks. And so, of course, I'm really big on having that employee handbook and some of those other things you pointed out. So thank you very much for your time and commitment.
Yeah, on time, too.
Yeah, and I want to thank Tony, because I know, that you had to leave, and that's unfortunate. And but we had some good chats in your office, and I really appreciate, the honestness of the chats that we had. So, I definitely appreciate that, and this is fantastic. So, well, I got to read it first, but yeah, but it certainly looks good. It looks good.
It appears to be
Yeah.
fantastic.
Thank you for that, Tony.
You're welcome.
Sure, so I prepared a memo to go along with this, which actually started out of our budget work session the other evening, last Tuesday. And it kind of lays out the little bit of rate study that we did, comparing this to Rockville and WSSC. We also looked at Middletown during the work session, but the two tier structures that were with Rockville and WSSC were more in line how we needed to head. Several years ago, we collapsed all the structured rates from 0 to 30,000, which is where the bulk of our users are. Broken down now from 0 to 7,000, 7,000 to 15,000, and 15,000 to 25,000, and 25 above is really in line with exactly kind of how our breakdown and our structure of our billing process is also. The bulk of our users fall within the 7 to 15,000. This is per quarter usage. So I laid it out there. You can see typically from 0 to 30,000, we're $11.71 per thousands of dollars for thousands of gallons billed. Rockville, on the other hand, from 0 to 800 is $16.70. 8,000 to 16,000, $16.99, and so on up to your 24 plus your $30.29. So we're really making more than double, or less than double, I should say, than they are. WSSC, same thing, not quite as steep as Rockville is. They're at $13.34 from 0 to 8,000, $14.93, $18.07, so it goes up. So what I propose, we know that we were $140,000 deficit showing in the water and sewer fund for this FY23 budget. So I set up another spreadsheet, and with averages in each categories, going through them, to make up that difference with the new tiered structure, we would be looking at $12.53 for the first 0 to 7,000, $14.12 for the next 7 to 15,000, and then 15 to 25 would be $17.26, and then anything over that 25,000 gallons per quarter would be $21.94 per thousand gallons. So this is definitely a tier structure that's more in line with what other water and wastewater utility people have. It does promote conservation and doesn't overly burden the elderly or just one or two folks in a home that are low users. Matter of fact, it's best for them. So really, what does that mean for the average user? Typically, right now with our bill structure, anyone from the 0 to 7,000, I think we have almost 500 folks that typically in a quarter are in that range, gallons. Their average bill is about $55.76. The proposed quarterly bill with this increase would be $59.66. So not a really significant per quarter charge. And then it's incremental as it goes up with the each category until you get to the highest one. The highest one was more difficult with the law of averages just because you have some people that are just, at the 30,000 gallon per quarter mark, and then you have a 250,000 gallon per quarter, which is the school. So there will be a substantial increase in the schools and the pools rather than, more of the residents as far as those. But there's just, a few of those users, so the bulk of the money coming in really comes from the residents rather than the higher users. So with that would be a new tier structure and rate structure. And you're right, we need to set a public hearing for April 4th with that.
I want to touch on 2 points on this too that I think are very important. These rates are still lower than most places, number one. And number two, this is just basically paying for, we're now at the point where it's funding itself. We're not going over and above or trying to make money off anything. We're basically trying to pay for the process to get people the water. Is that right?
That's correct.
Yep, so I think those are important points.
Equally important is that it's, as you said, it was defensible, but it's defensible against our biggest users, which are the public use. So we have to be able to defend that.
Yep. Well, I just wanted to be clear. So in the 2021 budget, the general fund was contributing money to the water rates, right?
We were about, I think it was around $40,000 deficit, and then we're looking at a $76,000 deficit in FY22, the year we're in now. So yes, then it was 147 at FY23 projections.
Okay, so I think that's the same thing Martin asked. And so the 22 budget, well, we went over this, but it wasn't decided at that time, will no longer have a contribution, or I think, what was it called?
What we call it a grant.
A grant, yeah, a
subsidy
grant
budget.
from the general fund to the water, right?
FY22 will, because there's always a 3-month lag after the adoption of a rate before you actually get those revenues coming in.
Could you say that again?
So if you adopted it today, people are starting to use that water at a different rate for the next 3 months before you can bill them. So there's a 3-month lag.
Oh, okay, okay. And we haven't adopted it yet because it still has to go before a public hearing.
Yes, sir.
Okay, swell. Thank you, thank you.
Also, too, keep in mind, this is also entirely, our profit loss contribution grant, whatever you want to call it,
Yeah.
is also based on users. So, how much water we actually sell. Remember, well, our infrastructure for the most part stays the same, and if we don't sell water, then infrastructures are higher. The cost of the water is up. So with any luck,
Oh, yeah.
it's you don't necessarily solve it. You just get closer. And
Well,
this
I guess
will probably get us very close, depending on what kind of year we have.
Right.
I guess that brings up another question then. So do these water rates, again, assuming that they're passed like it's written down on this paper, does that create a surplus that we will kind of save up for future years to make repairs?
Right now, it's pretty close to just covering the operation,
Could
maintenance
be a little
expenses.
bit, could be a little over, could be a little under.
You know what, a rainy year versus a dry year, that could be your difference.
Okay, so it's calculated to be somewhat break
With
even?
averages.
And we
Okay.
decided, I believe we decided in that session, the budget session, that banking money going forward to fix for repairs and stuff like that was going to be a tax thing, not a water rate thing. Is that right?
That's correct.
Capital
costs.
Yep.
Good enough, Jeff?
Yes, thank you.
Okay, got it. So we need to have a motion to set a, do we do that via motion, right?
Yes, sir.
Okay, we need to have a motion to set the public hearing for the proposed water and sewer fees for April 4th, 2022.
I make a motion that we set a public hearing date for the proposed water rates as laid out by Wade.
I'll second the motion.
A motion by Martin, second by Ed. Any other questions or commentary on it?
Is this, like it says at the bottom here, April the 4th?
That was in his motion, yes. Yep.
Thank you.
Okay, we have a motion and we second. No other questions? All those in favor of setting that public hearing as per Martin's motion, please say aye. Aye. Opposed? No? Okay, public hearing set for April 4th, 2022.
And then once we have the public hearing, we have to wait to adopt it for 2 weeks?
Yes.
Okay.
Next meeting after
Very good.
that. Yep.
Thank you for that, Wade. That's great.
Yeah, appreciate the analysis. All good. Summer camp fees. Wade, you just given us a little spreadsheet here to work with.
Sure, this comes straight from the budget work session, kind of how we debated out, and this is what was left on the table. Looking at raising the proposed camp fees. So we have a pre-registration rate of $90 per child. After the camp begins, registration will be $100 per child. Any additional siblings will have a $20 discount per child, and any campers outside of the 20837, 20838, 3942 zip codes is $175 per child.
That is how we left it. Does anybody else have anything else to say about that?
Just that the out-of-town people should pay more, but
He never gives
I
up.
won't, I won't belabor this point, you know.
You already have, so,
Yeah.
so tonight you're not going to belabor it.
Yeah, it's not enough to belabor it.
Okay, very good. No, I'm with you. You can keep talking about it if you want to. That's fine.
That's all good.
Any other commentary from any of the commissioners? None? Okay, we're just going to keep that in the, let's go ahead,
I'll
Carrie.
say something, I'll say something.
Sure.
So our total budget is 45,496. Is that right? For the summer camp.
For those
Total
expenses that are listed above, yes.
And, I mean, it looks like we have some revenues. I guess what would be interesting to see is the whole Parks and Rec budget. I mean, I don't know what all falls under that. Do we include events on the commons?
No,
in
that'd
that
be,
budget?
so that's all broken down to expenses. There's an expense exactly. Yeah, you won't see the camp counselors. They are in different accounts. The salaries themselves are in the salary account, but the $4,000 for the expenses, or 3,000, whatever, 4,000, is in, it's just rec, it's in a rec account. I'll show you in the budget. I believe it's account 1150, but. Let's see. But it's a regular, it's its own line item for the expense, which is only 4,000 is what it shows in there.
For total expense?
Yeah, account 1170, it's on page 14 in your budget pack. But that's it, it's just $4,000 for the crafts and whatnot that they purchase for the kids.
Line 1170.
Yes.
Is it a recreation program?
Yes.
And how do our counselor salaries compare to, I don't know, like pool lifeguards or, like county lifeguards or other camp counselors?
Private or private is different, certainly. But it depends how long they've been with the camp, and there's no one set thing. I think a lot of them come in at minimum wage, which is gonna be $14.50 this year with the county.
Right.
Yeah, we have a tiered structure for the counselors, just the boost that starts at minimum wage. So hard to say, how that study matches up to other potentially private, public lifeguard, et cetera. Is that something you want to look into?
No, I guess, we talked about this in the work session the other day. I guess in general, I would just like to see us do more comparison of other camps, of other revenue streams for Parks and Rec. At the end of the day, it doesn't really matter, if we charge $100 for the entire summer or $200 for the entire summer, because, either dollar amount is a steal. Honestly, if we're taking the stance that summer camp is basically a right for our residents, which I'm fine with, like public education or, access to medical care, then maybe that's fine. But we need to figure out a revenue stream to pay for it. I guess and I know we're not going to solve that tonight. I'm just saying, in general, we should be moving towards finding a way for our Parks and Rec, to balance our Parks and Rec budget. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I understand.
Gary, at this point, I'm with you, but at this point, it sounds like the votes are there to just approve it as is. I'd like some changes to it too, but I think at this point, we probably just need to put it to bed.
Yeah, just want to make the comment.
Thanks, Gary. Appreciate the observation. Again, this isn't something that we're voting on tonight. We just brought it for more discussion based on clarification, I guess, for where these rates were going to be, because, we do have to do it because it's not part of the budget, right?
We're going to be putting
Yeah,
out-
we're going to be posting it out there. Got it. So that has a vote, or it can be, has to be
No, fees should be
consensus?
changed by a vote.
Okay, got it. All right, guys. Well, then now it's do or die time on this thing. If we're okay with what has been proposed, then we're going to, that'll be our fee structure for this year's camp, and we will post it, put it out there, and start working from it. And I suggest that if you do want to go into a more depth look at what this means in terms of other camps and other places, we're kind of up against the wall. People are asking right now for registration, that you take this year and this time to go ahead and look at it, and then we'll see what next year looks like. As of now, we have a $20 increase, $20 increase.
I think we'll be having the same conversation next year.
Okay, that's fine.
Because looking at
I'll keep all my
Let's leave it
talking
at
points close.
Right, yeah, keep them close to your vest. Okay, very good. So I need, someone that needs to make a motion on this, that we accept the cap rate fees as proposed by Wade, which include pre-registration $90 child, registration after camp begins $100 a child, additional siblings $20 per child discount, and campers outside of those 4 zip codes are at $175 per child.
Sure, I'll make that motion. A motion that we would set the fees for summer camp, pre-registration $90, registration after camp begins at $100, additional siblings at $20, campers outside of 20837, 20838, 20839, and 20842 at $175 per child.
Thank you for the motion, Ed. Do we have a second?
Just Jeff, I'll second Ed's motion.
Second from Jeff. Any other further discussion on this? All those in favor, please say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Nays?
Nay.
Carrie?
I'll abstain.
Abstain? Okay, motion passes 3-1, and 1 abstention to set those rates. Appreciate it. Good discussion, guys, and we'll keep an eye on that one. Very good. Okay, FY23 proposed budget and tax rate. It's at the bottom of your presentation list here in your package. You can see that we're holding a constant property tax rate is what's been proposed, as well as a budget that we've worked over through our budget work session and everybody's individual study of it. We can have further discussion on it, but really the purpose of tonight's meeting, since we've already come to, I believe, a consensus. Thank you, we need to make a motion for a date to set a public hearing.
What's the proposed date that we do this?
It'd be April 4th also.
Okay, I'd like to make a motion that we have the budget presentation on April 4th.
Budget and tax rate.
Budget and tax rate presentation on April 4th.
Setting a public hearing for ordinance 219 on April 4th.
Yes.
Okay, thanks, Martin. We have a motion. Do we have a second?
I'll second it.
Second from Ed. Any other further discussion on setting that public hearing date? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Anybody opposed? Nope. The motion passes, so we'll be having 2 public hearings on that date.
Yep, and the budget and tax rate is available online.
Thank you. Very good. Manager's report. Caught you by surprise, huh?
Okay, we wanted to bring up the old Methodist Church. We talked about
Oh, sorry about that. Was that on there? I didn't see it on.
disposing
hard
of that
copy.
piece of property. No,
Thank
that's
you.
on the manager's report, yes.
Okay, got it. Thank you. Yes.
So I think that we just wanted to, so John, Jay, and myself have kind of come up with a plan of exactly what we need to do to dispose of the property legally and correctly. So some things we have to do, inspection report, that's already done. We had to order a survey. There's some stormwater stuff, and there's underneath the ground, and there's a generator that the town owns that supplies energy, emergency
Power.
electricity to Elgin and Fisher Pump Station. So we had to create easements on the property and have that recorded. So once the survey's done, we'll be able to develop a site plan from that, take it to the planning commission, and then get those recorded easements taken care of. We also had to do a phase 1 environmental assessment, and that's underway.
Sorry, when,
Actually, the draft report is done, it's 350 pages of text that I gotta review. So,
Lucky you.
When did you get that?
Friday.
Oh, okay.
Wade or John, would one of you mind describing what dispose of means? I mean, that's a legal term, it's not disposing.
So what we're gonna do is have a closed bid sale on this. It's typically what you would do with a piece of municipal property that you want to sell.
That's probably a more expedited process than the other way.
It's nice and it's clean also.
Yeah, good. And Jay signed off on all this?
Yes, so what I did, I pulled the file from when we sold the old bank building, the old town hall.
Mhm.
And it's the same process that was laid out there, so we're following that exact footprint.
That's in everybody's package. You should review that if you have any questions on it. But that was a clean process as well.
Wait, I have a question. I remember when we were talking about this, that there was going to be some type of a ground penetrating radar survey to determine if there's any grave sites still on the property?
That's been done a long time ago.
Oh, it's
There are
finished?
grave sites on the property.
There are grave
Or
sites.
is it one grave site or more than one?
Oh, there's a whole bunch of them. Probably 20 or 30, I don't know.
38 is the last I saw.
Oh, no.
But isn't there one in the actual church itself?
That's the, yes, he's in the wall.
Yeah, but it's only one in the church. The other ones are off to the side.
And in front and
In
beside,
front,
and
side,
Wow.
yeah,
actually, who was it that just sent this, the most recent one?
yeah.
He's on the economic development.
Jim, you.
No, we saw some documentation on that, but I did want to say that David Terrio approached me about that. He's got somebody that can do some sort of very sophisticated ground scan, and I said, just talk to town hall and see what they have to say about
Kenny,
that. Scholes.
Kenny Scholes, he's the
Yeah,
one.
came up with the
Yes,
documentation.
He
Yeah.
had the best plan, better than what we even had when we had the grant to do the radar penetrating study.
And one of them that was incredible to me was where the federal soldiers were buried. Now,
Yeah.
those soldiers have been, back in 1876, they came through and they picked up those remains and moved into a national cemetery.
Oh.
So those remains have been removed.
And Wade, do you anticipate the remains that are still there being a problem for David to move forward with this, assuming he gets it?
Well, assuming what he wants to do, but from what we're finding out, no, he can do a lot of
purchase the
things.
property, but if he ever has to move, there's a process that you have to go through for removal of any markers and also remains. Having done that, gone through that process, it's a lengthy process.
Yeah, I would
because
imagine.
You have to try to establish who those people are and then look back to find the relatives and notify them. So
Yeah.
it's not a quick and easy process.
So we also, and I'm ordering a title search and an appraisal, I put them in today. We went to the title search just to make sure there's no encumbrances on the property itself that's gonna prohibit us from selling to somebody, or there may be covenants on it, or whatever else, we don't know yet. So that needs to be done just for, our own safety as well as whoever's purchasing the property. Same with the appraisal. Covenants, we did put covenants on the old bank building, and I don't know if that's something you guys want to consider doing, first right of refusals. I mean, there's several different things we could do, so,
I think we absolutely should.
yeah, so Jay and I are gonna draft up some basics, and then,
Yeah. Yeah, that's what I want. Just please draft out the basics based on what we did before. Send them out to us for email, let us review. I definitely have some thoughts on that, but I'm not ready to do that until we at least get the legal interpretation of it.
Right.
But there should be nothing, there won't be anything onerous, you guys, but I think it's smart to protect our interests there too.
Absolutely.
So I'm sure we will. And I'm sure that won't inhibit the sale process.
Well, I want to ask Wade a question about the old Methodist Church. So in the area where there's grave sites under the ground, is it required, or it certainly seems to me appropriate to put some type of a decorative rail around the grave area so that people know that they shouldn't just walk along there? Right now, it's completely grass. You don't know what's underneath the ground.
I mean, I understand exactly what you're saying, but since we are just getting ready to sell it, that would create a maintenance nightmare for our guys to have to go out there and weed eat all summer and stuff, that sounds bad. But that's, realistically, that's probably why there's none out there. Plus, the headstones have been removed a long time ago. They were stored at the wastewater plant for many years, and then in '94, I think it was, some folks got together, we dug them all up and brought them up here and, made the monument that's there now. But
Okay.
So obviously, this is not, David Terrio is not guaranteed to get this, it's got to go through the process or whatever. I think a lot of us would like to see it happen. Do you have any idea how long this process, just a ballpark figure, will take? Like, whether or not, for him to just hear whether or not he gets it or not?
I'd say by the end of summer, we should be really close to going out to bed with it.
Great. Thank you.
Don't hold me to that, please.
I think that's realistic.
That's kind of a target.
Well, we've let them know privately it's going to be another 4 or 5 months. And
Yeah, some of this
ratcheted.
just takes a while, especially, the title search stuff could take a little bit of time.
But it'll be moved, as I've written to everybody that's written, as I'm sure just expediently as we possibly can. We talk about it, unfortunately or fortunately, every day, and just going to keep the process moving. And I think all of us want to see David get it, but there's going to be a process to it, and it's going to be just as expedient as it can be. David, if you're listening, we're moving as quickly as we can.
Slow-moving train.
Well, is it possible to share this list with him so that he knows what the steps are?
He's got it.
He's got the list,
Oh, he got those. Okay,
Yeah.
well, thanks.
that same list.
Everything that all these documents are all online.
Yeah, they can download the whole packet.
Which I think is a great thing for transparency purposes.
Okay, Parks and Street crews are out doing their regular mulching. They have a tractor-trailer load dumped off a bunch of mulch, and so you can see they've been doing Wayland Commons, and they'll be doing street trees and getting everything prepped up for spring for the town. Water Department's gonna be flushing fire hydrants beginning April 4th, and there's a full schedule that's posted on the town's website. And we always ask people not to wash white clothes for at least 24 hours after they've been through your neighborhood. Sometimes discoloration can occur. Never seen it happen, but we always put that warning out there. Assistant manager position, Jay and I are drafting a code text amendment. We have to actually create a position like the town manager, town clerk, Parks and Streets director, all those things are in the code now. So we need to create that as well as develop a job description for that position. So you'll be seeing that coming forward probably in the next month or so, hopefully, and get that ball rolling.
Great. Looking forward to
Talking about it.
That's all I have. Any questions?
Questions for Wade? Anybody?
Well, I was planning to bring up the tractor supply issue too, that I'm glad that Jerry Kay brought it up. Is that something that's on our radar
Is,
already?
I saw it today myself, I was like, what the heck's going on? We went by there.
It's been a while.
Is Gary Dobbs still the,
I'm still, I
I
have
will
not
reach out to
talked to
him
him. I do
tomorrow.
have a good number for him, so I'll send it to you.
okay, yep. I had the conversation with him about 4 years ago when they redid it, so.
Yeah, it's stupid. I mean, it's unbelievable that it's the way it is right now. So, thank you for everybody for pointing that out.
And where are we at with farmer's market planning?
They did call Kathy last week, and they do want to do it again this year. I don't have any details, she just shared that bit of information with me.
Last I remember, there was some discussion about whether it was going to stay, under their umbrella, or if it was something the town was going to take over.
Right,
Is
so I
that-
think Ms. Savage and somebody else is taking the lead on it. But I will verify that.
Wade, shout out to you for, I know all these consultant things and all are creating a lot more work for you and new processes and all, so thanks for rolling with it and taking us in a, slightly new direction, in some ways, and, thanks for all that.
It's time, I'm good with it, it's all good.
Appreciate it.
Are
Go
we,
ahead,
are we missing a town attorney? He hasn't,
He is flying back from Hawaii today,
Aviating.
so we're gonna have.
he just
him back.
hasn't been here the last 3 meetings. I was wondering if we're still
Not in person.
requiring his.
He said he had a real good tan.
Okay, anything else, you guys? Motion to adjourn from anybody?
I make a motion, we adjourn.
Second, anybody? Motion from Martin, second from Ed. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. We're adjourned. Thank you.
Sure, man.